Reddit, what's the most shameless thing someone ever did to you? When I bought my first house, I thought the biggest adjustment would be learning how to mow the lawn without accidentally scalping it. Turns out the real challenge was my neighbor, Rick, suburban warlord and self-appointed king of the cul-de-sac. It started the day after I moved in. I was sipping my coffee, admiring my modest backyard, when I saw Rick in cargo shorts and Crocs dragging fence panels 10 feet into what I knew was my property. "Hey," I called. "That's my land." Rick didn't even flinch. "Been this way for years," he said, like that explained it. "No, it hasn't. The property line's right there." I pointed to a metal stake partially buried in the grass. He waved me off. "Probably an old marker. Doesn't mean anything." Now, I'm not confrontational by nature, but something about the smug way he shoved those panels in the ground made my blood boil. I told him to stop, that I'd be hiring a surveyor. Rick just chuckled and said, "You do that, buddy. But don't waste your money." So of course I wasted my money. And it was glorious. The surveyor came 2 days later, used some sci-fi looking equipment, and confirmed it. Rick had indeed annexed 10 feet of my backyard. I handed him a copy of the report, expecting decency to kick in. Rick glanced at it, scoffed, and muttered, "Paper doesn't prove anything." Seriously? I filed a formal complaint, but while the zoning board dithered, Rick upped the ante. He installed a tiny shed in the disputed zone and, no joke, hung a private property, "No trespassing" sign on my lawn. Fine. You want to play games, Rick? I bought a drone. My petty little UAV hovered over the backyard like a hawk, capturing every smug move he made. I posted a video titled "Neighbor Steals My Backyard" in real time, and it went viral in my local Facebook group. Still, Rick didn't back down. He held a neighborhood barbecue on the stolen land. Invited me too. I declined. The war escalated. I added motion-activated sprinklers aimed precisely at the annexed zone. He retaliated by planting gnomes. Not cute gnomes, haunted, soulless ones. Then came the twist. While digging through a box of documents the previous owner left behind, I found an original property map from 1957. It showed something interesting. Rick's fence had always been in the wrong spot, even back when his father owned the place. Turns out he'd been squatting on an extra 10 feet for decades. I marched that map over to the zoning board. Combined with the survey, it sealed the deal. Rick was ordered to move the fence. He sulked through it like a child being forced to share his toys. The day he tore down the panels, I toasted the victory from my porch. My lawn was whole again, and Rick? He still waters the edge of his lawn like it's sacred ground. I let him. Let the man mourn the empire he lost. You ever hear something so absurd, so wildly inappropriate, that your brain short-circuits trying to process it? That's what happened to me the night my sister-in-law calmly suggested I hand over my infant daughter, like she was asking to borrow a blender. Let me set the stage. My wife and I were hosting a casual family dinner, a little get-together to introduce everyone to our new baby girl, Emily, born just 3 months prior. We'd invited her parents, her brother, and his wife, Amanda. Amanda and I had always had a weird dynamic. She was polite, but there was this constant undertone of resentment. She'd toss offhand comments about our house being too perfect or how lucky we were that things just worked out for us. You know the type. Smile like sunshine, eyes like storm clouds. Anyway, dinner was going fine. My wife's making conversation about baby sleep schedules, her mom's cooing over Emily, and Amanda's just watching. Quiet. Calculating. I thought she was bored or maybe tired. Then, just as dessert was being served, Amanda looks at us and says, "So I've been thinking. I'd like to take Emily during the weekdays." The room fell silent. I mean, she went on with a breezy smile, "Since you have 3 kids and I can't have any, it just feels fair. I'll have her Monday through Friday to bond. You guys can have weekends." I was halfway through a spoonful of cheesecake and I genuinely thought I'd misheard. My wife blinked like she'd been slapped. Her brother coughed so hard he nearly choked. Amanda, meanwhile, sipped her wine like she hadn't just tried to rehome our baby. I looked at her, deadpan. "Are you seriously asking to co-parent our child?" Amanda tilted her head. "Not co-parent. Just share. I want to experience motherhood, and I think this is the perfect solution. You're already stretched thin with 3 kids." Her husband, my wife's brother, finally found his voice. "What the hell are you talking about, Amanda?" She shrugged. "It's not like they can't see her on weekends. And it's not like I'm a stranger. I'm her aunt. I stood up, gently took Emily from her bassinet and said, "All right, I think that's enough for tonight." Amanda tried to protest. "I'm not being unreasonable. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." "No, Amanda," I said, "you're saying what you're thinking. And it's insane." Her husband apologized profusely as he ushered her out the door. Amanda cried, ranted about how unfair life was, and screamed that I didn't deserve Emily, that I was hoarding motherhood while she was left with nothing. I locked the door behind them. Later that night, my wife and I had to sit our older two kids down and explain, gently, that Aunt Amanda wasn't going to be around for a while. They were confused but understood enough. We didn't tell them the full story. They don't need to carry that weight. The next day, we added extra security. Cameras. Changed the locks. Informed the daycare and school not to release our kids to anyone but us. It felt paranoid. It felt necessary. Amanda's mother called to apologize. So did her husband. They begged us not to cut ties. I told them we wouldn't with them. But Amanda? She needed help. Professional help. A week later, Amanda sent a long, unhinged email. She accused us of stealing her future, her chance of being a mother, her reason for existing. Said she'd never forgive us for denying her what was rightfully hers. I didn't reply. What was there to say? Months have passed. Amanda hasn't contacted us again. We've heard she's in therapy now. I genuinely hope it's helping. But me? I still double-check the door locks every night. I still watch the street when Emily's stroller is out on a walk. Because there's impudent and then there's delusional. And when someone starts believing your child is owed to them, you stop treating it like family drama and start treating it like a threat. When I took the job at the startup, the vibe was casual: hoodies, jeans, sneakers, sometimes even slippers if you dared. Nobody cared what you wore as long as your code compiled and your Slack messages were coherent. For 2 years, it was paradise. Then came Greg. Greg was a transplant from some crusty finance firm, hired to streamline operations and bring structure. Translation: make everything less fun. He started small, mandatory daily check-ins, pointless metrics dashboards, ominous words like synergy. But the real kicker came on a Monday morning team meeting. "Let's talk appearance," Greg said, smiling like he was doing us a favor. "We represent a serious company. We need to look the part." I looked down at my graphic tee featuring a raccoon with a jetpack. My teammate next to me wore a Blink 182 hoodie. Across the Zoom grid, someone was mid-bite of a Pop-Tart. Greg cleared his throat. "I'm not saying we need suits and ties, but dress better. Elevate your presentation." We asked for specifics. He offered none. Just better. So we tried. The next day, people swapped hoodies for cardigans, tees for polos. Greg still looked disappointed, like a disappointed priest watching a failed choir practice. "You can do better," he said. And that's when I snapped, silently, internally, but with absolute resolve. I showed up the next day in a 3-piece suit. Not just any suit. This was a navy pinstripe with a pocket square, silver cufflinks, and shiny Oxfords. I looked like I was about to testify in front of Congress. Greg raised an eyebrow. "Big meeting today?" "Nope," I smiled. "Just dressing better." The next day, full tuxedo. Bow tie, tails, polished shoes you could see your soul in. Greg didn't say a word, but he stared at me the entire stand-up. Day 3, morning coat. Day 4, Baroque vampire cosplay. Technically still formal wear, depending on which century you ask. By day 5, others had joined in. My coworker Janice wore a red carpet gown. Brian came in a medieval doublet with velvet trim. Someone brought a powdered wig. Greg lost it. "This is not what I meant by dressing better." "But you said elevate," I said innocently. "This is peak elevation." HR got involved. I explained that Greg's directive was vague, and that there was no official dress code. The HR rep, trying not to laugh, agreed. They suggested Greg provide a written guideline if he had expectations. So he did. 1 page. Bullet points. No costumes. No tuxedos. Business casual preferred. The rebellion ended, but morale skyrocketed. We'd proven a point. Now I wear chinos and a button-up, like a normal tech guy. But sometimes, just to keep Greg nervous, I wear a tie with tiny flamingos on it. Or socks that say, "World's okayest employee." He doesn't say anything. He knows better now. The office may be more structured, but at least Greg learned one thing. If you try to kill the vibe without a clear plan, the vibe will kill you back. In heels, sequins, and a powdered wig. After 11 years together, I thought I knew my girlfriend inside and out. We had a home, shared expenses, a dog, and matching coffee mugs. No kids yet? We were taking our time. What I didn't know was that taking our time was code for she was biding hers to leave me for a broke guy named Travis. The day she dropped the bomb, she said it like she was doing me a favor. "I'm moving on," she said. "With Travis. I think I owe it to myself to feel passion again." She packed her bags but didn't go far. Literally didn't leave. She stayed in our house. "I'll give you space," she added. "I'll just be sleeping in the guest room for a bit." I was too stunned to argue. 2 days later, Travis started showing up. He brought his Xbox, his duffel bag, his unwashed vibes. He drank my beer, fed my dog leftover pizza, and referred to my couch as the command center. Then came the kicker. "Since this house is in your name," my now ex said over dinner. Yes, she was still eating my groceries. "We were thinking it's only fair that you keep covering the rent and bills." "I mean, it's your place." I blinked. "You're living here. With Travis." "Well, yeah. Temporarily." "So, you want me to fund your relationship with the guy you cheated on me with?" She nodded, like I was the one being difficult. I laughed. A deep, slightly manic laugh. Then I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and called my landlord. "The lease? Month to month. Breaking it required 30 days notice." "Perfect." I signed a new lease the next day somewhere else. Moved out over the weekend while they were out thrifting. Left the key on the counter, the fridge empty, and the utilities set to expire in 24 hours. 2 weeks later, I got a message from Travis. "Bro, why would you just leave us like this?" I didn't answer. Some people say petty isn't productive. But in this case, it was electric. When I moved to Australia, I was excited for a fresh start. New city, new job, new number. Everything felt clean. That lasted about 4 hours. My phone started buzzing with calls from guys named Damo, Mick, and Big Dave, all asking the same thing. "Oi, where are ya? The concrete's set and the rebar's late." Or, "Did ya order the drywall or not?" I was confused. I don't know what drywall looks like, let alone how to order it. After the 5th call that day, I realized my new number used to belong to a construction foreman, and his entire crew refused to believe he'd changed it. I tried to be polite at first. "Sorry, wrong number. Tell Steve to call me." "I'm not Steve. I'm a programmer." "Sure you are, mate." Eventually, they started yelling at me, as if I ditched work to chill at home. One guy threatened to report me for site abandonment. So I did what any rational person would do. I Googled myself. Or rather, the number. Turns out, Steve had posted this number on 2 job boards and 3 local business directories. I found his new number and gave him a call. "Hey man, I've got your old number now, and I'm getting non-stop calls meant for you. Could you update your info online?" He laughed. "Not my problem, mate. You deal with it." Then he hung up. Okay. The universe has a funny way of setting things up. A few weeks later, I was having lunch when I heard a guy arguing on speakerphone. He was outside a cafe, pacing like a man on a mission. And the voice? Very familiar. It was Steve. I walked up. "Hey, Steve, right?" He blinked. "Do I know you?" "Sort of. I'm the guy who's been fielding your angry construction calls for 3 weeks. His face paled. "I warned you," I said. "Now every time someone asks for a quote, they get me instead. And I've been telling them you quit construction to open a kombucha yoga studio." "You what?" "I even set up a voicemail," I added. "It's pretty convincing." Steve lost his mind. But after that, the calls stopped, and I kept the voicemail, just in case. I matched with her on a dating app. Funny, cute, big into hiking and cats. By the fourth date, I figured we'd hit that comfortable phase where things get real but still light. Spoiler, things got real, all right. Just not in the way I expected. We went to a casual dinner spot, nothing fancy. She seemed a little intense when she sat down, eyes locked in like a job interview. Before the waitress even brought water, she launched in. I just want to say, I'm working on myself. I've been in a lot of toxic relationships. Okay. Honesty. Cool. Then she pulled out her phone and I swear opened her photo gallery. These are my last 2 exes, she said, showing me pictures like a cop in an interrogation room. Which one do you think you're more like? I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I awkwardly pointed at the guy with the beard. Interesting, she nodded like I'd confirmed some unspoken prophecy. That one cheated on me with his boss. The other one ghosted me after I told him I wasn't really on birth control. Wait, what? She took a bite of salad completely unfazed. I just wanted to see if he was serious, you know? Anyway, I'm not like that anymore. I'm in therapy. I nodded slowly. That's good. Dinner continued with tales of trauma, ex-boyfriend drama, and her controversial stance that every man has cheated, they just haven't gotten caught yet. I should have bailed. I know. But I was too stunned and also, she drove. On the way back, she insisted we take her shortcut home. This shortcut involved a winding, pitch-black road. She sped down like she was auditioning for the Fast and the Furious red flag drift. Relax, she laughed as I clung to the door handle. My dad's a mechanic. I know how to handle a car. We nearly collided with a deer. Then a mailbox. Then a garbage truck. When we skidded to a stop in front of my place, she had the nerve to say, I think we have real potential. I smiled weakly. Totally. I'll, text you. I did not. Instead, I blocked her, deleted the app, and scheduled a therapist session for me. I work in a niche field, technical field support for custom enterprise software. Basically, when a system breaks in the middle of nowhere, I'm the guy who drives out, fixes it, and makes sure the customer doesn't throw their monitor through a window. It's not glamorous, but it's essential. So when I got an email from HQ saying I was being restructured, I was suspicious. When they told me to fly to New York to meet the CEO and board for a strategic planning meeting, I knew something dumb was coming. My colleague Jim, the only other guy who did what I did for the US region, got the same email. We met up in NYC the night before and swapped theories. None of them were stupid enough. Next morning, we walk into the boardroom. The CEO, Bob, a man who speaks in nothing but buzzwords and TED Talk tone, smiles like a proud dad showing off his new toy. Gentlemen, he says, we're streamlining. Translation, someone's getting screwed. We've decided to split the field support division. Jim, you'll cover Canada. You, he gestures to me, are also Canada now. The U.S. accounts will be handled by a new hire, someone I personally recruited. I blink. Wait, who's handling the current U.S. clients? Bob beams. Karen. He claps and in walks Karen, a 23-year-old recent graduate with no field experience, wearing heels too high for walking, let alone hiking across dusty warehouses in Alabama to fix firmware bugs. Karen sits down and immediately says, don't worry, I learned fast. I'll reach out if I need help. She never did. We were told to support her transition, which apparently meant CC her on everything and wait for the inevitable chaos. Within 2 weeks, she'd missed 2 site calls, accidentally emailed a client's root credentials to the wrong address, and told another to just restart it and see what happens. I documented everything. Quietly. Every screw-up, every complaint, every Karenism that made the system worse. 3 months later, a Fortune 500 client dropped us entirely. Another threatened legal action. Finally, I get a call from Bob. I need you to fly to Ohio, he said. They're furious. I did. I walked in, calmed the client down, fixed the disaster Karen left, and gave them my personal number. 2 days later, I was reinstated to U.S. operations. Karen? She's still in the company, in marketing now. Bob never apologized, but he did send a very nice email thanking me for demonstrating core values in a time of transformation. I printed it out and taped it to my monitor next to a photo of Jim holding a welcome back donut. I'd lived in the same shared house for over a year, 3 bedrooms, decent rent, and rotating roommates every few months. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet, and I got the master bedroom, which came with a private bathroom and big windows. Life was good. Then Zach moved in. Zach came through a friend of a friend situation. He seemed normal enough on the surface, clean, paid the deposit on time, even had plants. But within a week, I realized he was the human equivalent of a passive-aggressive note taped to a fridge. It started small. He'd reorganize the kitchen and call it optimizing. Rearranged the living room furniture for energy flow. Turned the thermostat down to 62 degrees Fahrenheit and said it was better for sleep cycles. Annoying, sure. But then he took it up a notch. One evening, I came home to find a printed sheet of paper taped to my bedroom door. At the top, bold font, new shared utility costs breakdown. I live in my own room. I pay my rent directly to the landlord. But this new policy claimed that because my room had more natural light and faced the street, I should contribute an additional $50 a month to cover the ambient advantage fee. What the hell is an ambient advantage fee? Zach, that's who? He also claimed I should pay more for shared air conditioning since my room was larger and required more BTUs to cool. I asked where he got this data from. He pointed at a graph he made on Excel using completely made-up numbers. I laughed. Thought he was joking. He wasn't. When I refused to pay, Zach started locking up things in the fridge: milk, eggs, even ketchup. He put little padlocks on condiment bottles. He taped off half the cabinet space with masking tape and labeled it Zach's Zone. That's when I started recording. I documented everything: the fee notes, his fridge fortresses, his rent, invoices he started sliding under my door. I even got him on video explaining that my ceiling fan should cost at least $10 per month in circulation tax. Lease renewal came up the next month. I sent all the evidence to the landlord, politely pointing out that Zach had essentially started a shadow HOA inside the house. 2 days later, the landlord gave me a fresh lease with Zach's name missing. Zach tried to protest, but the landlord just said, "You can't charge rent for what you don't own." I still have the original ambient advantage invoice framed in my hallway. A trophy to the pettiness I survived. First dates are awkward. Second dates are better. Third dates are where you usually find out if someone's normal or not. But the fourth date? That's when you either start planning a weekend getaway or wondering if you need therapy after. I met Alyssa through mutual friends. Smart, funny, clearly confident. Our first few dates were solid: coffee, a walk, a concert. Normal stuff. Nothing weird. So when she invited me to a low-key dinner at her place, I thought we were moving in the right direction. She made pasta. We drank wine. It started off great. And then it didn't. About halfway through dinner, as I'm complimenting the meal, she smiles and says, "You're a lot different than my exes." I chuckle. Hopefully in a good way. She tilts her head. Let's find out. She reaches behind her, grabs her phone off the counter, and starts swiping. I assume she's checking a message, maybe showing me a meme or something lighthearted. Nope. She opens her photo album and holds it up. "This is Brad," she says, showing me a picture of a shirtless guy flexing in a mirror. He was my first real relationship. Great body, no ambition. I blink. She keeps going. "This is Marcus. Emotionally unavailable, but drove a Porsche." That made up for a lot. I glance at my plate. Is this a joke? Did I miss a setup? Then she turns to me, completely serious. "Where would you place yourself compared to these two?" I laugh awkwardly. Hopefully above no ambition and emotionally unavailable?" She frowns. "So you'd put yourself above Brad and Marcus?" "Sure, why not?" I say, trying to play along. "Interesting," she mutters. "What about sexually?" I nearly choke on my wine. "What?" "Just curious." Marcus was great in bed. Brad was average but enthusiastic. "You." "I'm not answering that," I say, still trying to laugh it off. She shrugs. "It's not a big deal. I'm just trying to figure out where you land." At this point, I start mentally reviewing how fast I can exit the situation without making it weird. "But Alyssa?" "She's just warming up." "I have a rating system," she continues, reaching into her kitchen drawer. She pulls out a notebook. A real, spiral-bound, handwritten notebook. Inside, charts, notes, literal rankings. I track compatibility. "Helps me avoid wasting time," she says, flipping pages. "I had you as a tentative 7.5, but after tonight, I'm leaning more towards 6.8. I stare at her. "Are you actually serious right now?" "Totally," she says. "You're sweet, but I need more confidence." Brad was dumb, but he used charisma. "You seem too nice." "Too nice." I stood up. Look, I said, you're obviously very analytical. And I'm sure this system works for you. But I'm not interested in competing with ghosts. She raised an eyebrow. So you're leaving because you're insecure? I smiled. No, I'm leaving because I'm sane. I walked out. Didn't even finish the wine. Later that night, she texted me a screenshot of a compatibility exit score she gave me. Final rating, 5.9. Subtext, would not recommend. I didn't reply. But I did post that score in the group chat that introduced us. The guys laughed for a solid hour. Apparently, I wasn't the first one to make it to the spreadsheet. But I was the first to leave before dessert. I met her through a coworker, one of those you have to meet my friend setups. Her name was Jess. She was cute, quick-witted, and had a smile that could distract you mid-sentence. We texted for a week, bonded over our shared obsession with 2000s rock, and agreed to meet for a drive and dinner. She picked me up. Hope you don't mind, she said, revving her little red coupe like it was about to enter a street race. I like driving. My dad's a mechanic. Cool, I thought. Confidence. I like that. 10 minutes in, I changed my mind. Jess drove like she had a grudge against the concept of road safety. We peeled out of my neighborhood, turned corners like a chase scene, and by the time we hit the freeway, we were going 90 in a 65. I gripped the door handle. You, drive like a pro. She grinned. I grew up around cars. Dad let me drive on back roads before I was 13. Trust me, I know what I'm doing. Then she cut off a pickup truck and gave the driver a cheerful wave. Do you always drive like this? I asked, half laughing, half clenching. Only when I'm vibing, she said, cranking up the volume on a Paramore track. Vibing, right? The final straw came when we reached a winding, unlit mountain road. It was supposed to be scenic. It felt more like a roller coaster built by someone with a death wish. She took blind corners like a NASCAR driver in overtime, and when I politely suggested she slow down, she said, "Relax. My dad's a mechanic. If something breaks, I can fix it." Pretty sure we would be the things breaking, I muttered, clutching the dashboard. She laughed, then hit a pothole that sent the car airborne for half a second. I swear I saw my life flash, complete with credits and theme music. When we finally arrived at the restaurant, I was pale and sweating. She looked at me and said, "You're fun, but you've got a nervous energy. Maybe you need therapy." I nodded. Maybe I do. Definitely before I get in a car with you again. Dinner was awkward. I was too rattled to eat much, and she couldn't understand why I wasn't impressed with her rally skills. We didn't go out again, but I did make an appointment with a driving instructor, because apparently trusting strangers behind the wheel is my fatal flaw. And Jess? I hope she's doing all right, preferably below the speed limit. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment telling us about the most impudent person you've ever met. We really want to read your stories.